my friend Shams wasn't tipping every single pick, was he?
Yeah, what was
Let's
that?
ask him about it, ladies and gentlemen. Shams Charania.
Yeah, Shams.
Shams, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. My head is kind of spinning. We got the second round of the NBA draft tonight. I'm actually even getting ready for free agency coming up in a few days. So we have a few different things on the docket right now. We're wrapping our minds around.
Are we about to do the whole Shams screen time post? Is that coming soon? Is the Shams screen time post coming?
That's likely. I feel like that's likely. I think the people want to see the June 30th and July 1 screen times, but if they don't want to see it, we won't. We usually give the people what they want to see. I think that's what they want.
All right. Let's talk about what the people didn't see last night. It was noticeable. I live on X. You were trending while not being active on X because you weren't tipping picks. A lot of great tweets about Shams not tipping picks last night. Just the way the internet has the ability, more specifically NBA Twitter. Okay, I guess that's not the name. And that is the best Twitter. Let's not even get into it, but that's neither here nor there. They had a field day with the Shams not tipping picks. Then, all of a sudden, pick 11, we're getting tipped picks now with trades. Now we're getting with trades. What was your experience last night? Because with all of us who are friends of yours and followers of yours, it was a little bit different and people noticed.
It was hard. It was hard. Knowing the picks 5 minutes in advance or knowing what's happening in different places well before. It was hard. It was definitely unlike past years for me. There's no doubt about it. There were times I was like, let me
fire one of these off. Yeah.
But I think this year I took the approach of being a good teammate and being a good partner for the people that I'm around, the people that I work with on a daily basis. By approaching it and not tipping the picks. But trades though are different, Pat. Trades, they get processed. It's a totally different element of the draft. And so to me, keeping our broadcast as up to date as possible on which pick is going where, that and if a trade is processed, it is my job to report that.
Absolutely.
So to me, I think I handled it the best I could.
I thought you did very well. By the way, I thought you did very well. And you talked about being a good partner and a good teammate and everything like that. We run the Draft Spectacular. And we, for a very long time, as soon as somebody on the internet reported what the pick was, we would just be like, yup, here's the pick. Because we're on the internet, this is how business is being done on the internet. Then, once we start our show being licensed through ESPN, and then the NFL gives us a spot at the draft, and it's like the ESPN production people are building the set. I want that to be a big deal, whenever and all the other insiders that have probably been given the same speech are like, hey, please don't tip the picks. They all talk shit on everybody tipping picks. So I can understand the pressure that you had on you yesterday and the decision making, because we literally had to make that decision. That is something we had to do, because it's like
we did NFL picks on the show a few years ago.
Yeah, years ago you were cracking. Yeah,
2020. I was getting in the mix there. COVID year. I remember that.
It's tough though, because you do want to be a good teammate. You do want to be for us. We would like to be a good teammate for the NFL. We respect the NFL. So whenever the NFL was like, hey, is there any way, because every other broadcast partner we have is getting pissed at us that you're doing that.
You guys are 8 picks ahead,
and that they can't. We don't let them do it. But also, don't you think that this is a bigger moment if it just happens? And I'm like, yes. I do. I do think that is the case. So that was an easy give. I think you did the right thing. And then whenever you're reporting the trades, we got some tips. We got some tipped picks. So I think you did great last night, Shams. Now, with that being said, what were some of the big storylines of last night? Obviously, Ace Bailey goes 5 to Utah. We just talked to Ryan Smith. Is that the biggest takeaway from last night, or what is it in your eyes from what everybody is talking about?
There are a few. For sure, we can start with Utah. Ace Bailey going at 5. You know what's crazy? A few days before the draft, I actually heard Ace Bailey that was the spot he was destined to go. And then, But the classic, like in the NFL, I'm sure it's the same way. Smoke screens, you hear this. It's like every single day it's a new rumor. You hear, oh, no, he's actually to Washington. He's actually going to go to New Orleans. Like, I heard everything in the book. But I did trust the person I heard that from. But, I went into the draft eyes wide open. We'll see what happens. I think at pick 4 and 5, there were a lot of conversations about moving back, moving up, things of that sort. None of that happened. And once Ace Bailey got to 5, I wasn't really that surprised. Ace Bailey had a very, I think, an unorthodox process, but it's not a totally different process. It's not the first time a player and his representatives chose to handle it and really shield him and keep it private and kind of throw different smoke screens in their own way out there to shield his process. And whether he got to where he wanted to or not, what I was told going into draft night was that he was very comfortable with his process. He was very comfortable with the fact that no matter what he does, whether he works out with teams or doesn't work out with teams, whether he's a good Samaritan or isn't a good Samaritan in the team pre-draft form, he's going to go somewhere between 3 and 8. And that's exactly what happened. He ends up going 5 to the Utah Jazz. They're thrilled. And I think them getting Walter Clayton Jr., I'm sure Ryan Smith and that organization is through the roof because you get those two guys, competitors, shot makers, shot creators. Those are 2 good gets. Atlanta is another team, I think, a big winner, not only of the draft, but this week. Getting Kristaps Porzingis earlier in the week. If he's healthy and he's good to go, that is a massive get. He became really an indispensable part of the Celtics and their championship team in 2024. And that's a big get for them if he's healthy. And then, that's a great tweet by Bobby Marks. Shout out Bobby Marks, my teammate. And then last night, they moved back 10 draft slots, and they end up with an unprotected first-round pick of the best favorable out of Milwaukee or New Orleans. Given the uncertainty around both of those teams, and I don't know where either team is going to finish, one of those picks might end up being a high pick. And if it is, Atlanta essentially moved back 10 slots and then gets another lottery pick next year potentially. So that was some shrewd movement by their new general manager, Ansi Salah. But I think Atlanta overall has to be looking at themselves pretty good right now. And they've got a $25.3 million trade player exception. I do anticipate them using that. Either they're going to take in contracts with draft picks and assets, or they could get a game-changing player at that salary slot.
Okay, so let's talk about Joe Dumars, who's the general manager of the Pelicans, doing that trade. I believe Bill Simmons said it was the worst trade he's ever seen in professional sports. I think is something along those lines.
In the last decade.
Going that far.
Huh?
Last decade.
In the last decade.
Okay, in the last decade is what Bill Simmons said. He's followed basketball. Obviously, he's a basketball guy. I don't know the business of the NBA as well. I know they don't care about picks, but they do care about picks. So much so that they'll move up 10 spots to draft somebody. Derek Queen, dog.
Ball player.
Absolute dog, by the way. Great player. If he ends
But how can you judge that? What if he ends up being a Hall of Famer? What if he ends up being a perennial All-Star? Then no one is going to be talking about this in 3 years. So clearly, Joe Dumars, Troy Weaver, that organization, they felt very confident in the player that Derek Queen is. Only time will tell exactly how that is. Now, from the Atlanta perspective, they clearly were fine moving back 10 slots. And then they get an extra asset. So for them, that is looked at as a net positive. For the Pelicans, it's all about how Derek Queen ends up, how he develops, what is he like in his NBA career. And to me, it's too early to judge whether they won or lost. If next year's pick ends up being a lottery pick, but Derek Queen ends up being a perennial all-star caliber player, are we really having a conversation?
I don't know. 10 picks in the middle of the first round were worthy of an unprotected first-round pick next year. I don't know what the right play is and what history says in the NBA, but I do know they'll trade the 2041 number 1 overall in like that. They'll do that for the 9th man off the bench. So the NBA is certainly an interesting place. Go ahead, Ty.
Well, I was just going to say, that would be the devil's advocate, right? It's why would you trade this unprotected pick that could potentially be a lottery pick when you could just be hey, we'll give you 2035 and 2036 first-round picks and then a couple second-round picks.
Well, that's because new GM down there at the Hawks said, I don't play those games.
Yeah.
Okay, I need that thing right now. unleaded.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, go ahead, Connor.
Yeah, Shams, you mentioned the next steps, the free agency starting pretty soon here after the draft, and you mentioned Kuminga being a guy that the Miami Heat are looking at. Are there any other big names? Naz Reid, I know, is a guy that most teams want, I'm pretty sure. What is kind of the next thing after the draft? Or is it the Giannis trade? Is that happening?
Well, I think the Giannis situation, we'll see. A lot of us observing this week, draft week, free agency week. What can the Bucks do to get better? So that's a little bit in the distance. But as far as what we have in front of us, there's only one team with significant cap space. That's the Brooklyn Nets, and what they're looks like what that organization led by Sean Marks, their general manager, what they're doing is retooling younger. They used 5 draft picks last night. That gives you a window into what they're trying to accomplish. They're continuing to build on a young timeline there. So they have a ton of cap space. They got Terrence Mann. They got a first-round pick. I think continue to take on salaries, getting assets. That'll be a focal point of what they're working on there. But the fact that they're the only team with cap space, that means there's a whole lot of free agents right now. James Harden, Naz Reid, Julius Randle. LeBron James has a player option. He has a deadline of that. If I believe on Sunday, there's a bunch of player option decisions on Sunday. So I think what we're going to see is a lot of free agents are either going to re-sign with their teams, work on sign-in trades, because there's only one team with significant cap space. So I definitely, I'm tracking. Let's see what happens with LeBron James' player option. I said it on our show in Indy, actually our first show we did at outside Gamebridge. It's likely, still is likely, LeBron James opting into his player option, just under $53 million. But he has until Sunday to make that decision. And then there'll be a host of other players making similar decisions on Sunday.
Well, good luck to LeBron deciding whether or not he wants $53 million.
Yep.
You've earned it, buddy. Just kid from Akron.
Pretty good place to be.
There's a lot of players that have that option this weekend. I'll be excited to see who goes where. Let's talk about the Phoenix Suns. They acquire 2 centers in a matter of 10 minutes or something along those lines.
Yeah, it was. This might have been the other shock of the draft. So, come on, Malawach.
Come on, Malawach.
Come on, Malawach. I'm not gonna lie. I think I botched it a couple times. Sorry, come on, Malawach. I get it.
Come on,
Shams. It's come on, Malawach.
Seems like a great kid. All I hear around the league is he's got a high character. So shout out, come on, Malawach. So when he, a lot of people thought he was going to go between 7 and 9, and once he fell to 10, I think the Suns were looking at it like, we never expected this kid to fall to us at 10, and at the same time kind of working on this Mark Williams trade. And so both things kind of developed really quick within minutes of each other. And you think about the Suns last year, they had massive front court issues. Yusuf Nurkic, Nick Richards at center. He played a much bigger role. He actually was their most, I think, consistent presence at center. But they had Mason Plumlee there, so that was clearly a position of need. So to be able to get 2 guys with high upside, who knows? Maybe one of these guys develops a 3-point shot or develops some kind of outside game that maybe allows you to play them both together. But they clearly addressed their need. And Kamal Malawach, no one expected him to drop at 10. There was actually conversations. I thought the Suns were going to move the 10th overall pick and potentially move back. They were in conversations with a couple teams to potentially move back, but they ended up drafting at 10. And now they go from having massive issues at the center position to having 2 guys with really high upside.
Okay, we got about a minute before a hard out. Actual minute. Any expectations for tonight?
So the first pick of the second round tonight, number 31, Minnesota Timberwolves. I'm told that pick is actually currently in the process of being auctioned off to the highest bidder. So there's multiple offers coming into the Timberwolves, multiple future assets potentially. And so they're going to continue to have those conversations. The draft is several hours away tonight. So just leading off the draft tonight, that first pick tonight likely seems to be there's serious traction on potentially trade there.
Currently on the market. We can't wait to watch the second round. You doing the coverage again?
I'll be on there.
So yes, you mean.
Ladies and gentlemen, senior NBA insider at ESPN, senior Shams Charania.
Hey, Shams.
Hey.